Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. You lucky people get to probably see me make a complete fool of myself. I was going to go shopping today, and as one does, you have a look round to see what you might need. And having had a look round to see what I needed, I didn't need enough to go shopping. All I needed was milk, really, which I was actually out of. So we didn't need to go. We have supplies for another 3 or 4 days. So later in the week. Anyway, these are 6 of my plants in Seramis. And after this morning's watering session, snap decision, they're coming out. I know it's not the best time of year, but I've had a look round at most of them. Most of them have got new growths. Some of them are looking pretty sad, but I've only ever put these in pots. I haven't taken one out yet, so I haven't got a clue what I'm going to find. Could be all sorts of things going on in these pots, from a pot full of lovely roots to next to bugger all. And the one thing I do know I've got is some very sad looking pseudo bulb bases that got too wet and look a bit black. Now what I'm hoping is that when I get them out, I can actually take the sheaths off of those pseudo bulbs, and the actual bulbs are going to be okay, and it's just the sheaths that have gone black. That might be wishful thinking. Anyway, the scissors are in the rubbing alcohol, 70% as usual. The other alcohol's in the glass. That's not for the plants, that's for me. I think I might need it. And I've got my hydrogen peroxide. I will clean up the base of the plants and everything before I do anything with them. Now what I do with these depends entirely on what I find when I start making the mess, getting them out of the pots, because this is going to make a mess. So first thing I'm going to do is get the pots out of the tray, because I want to dump the old Seramis in the tray and try not to get most of it on the floor and down the back of the units and under the kettle, and it's going to make a mess, I just know it is. So we'll get these out. I wish I hadn't wasted my valuable RO water actually watering these this morning though. I'd known I was going to do this. But sometimes in the orchid world you make plans, and other times you make snap decisions, and this was just one of those. I suddenly found myself with time I didn't think I'd have. See, those pots were put in that tray in case any draining out of the pots happened. Now the pots are raised on little feet. You probably can't see them very well. So that's dripping all over the cooker. So the bottom of the pot is raised up nearly 1/4 of an inch, and the tray's got ribs on. So the idea being that by placing them back in the tray, any water that runs out of the pots isn't going to get back into the pot, it's just going to sink into those trays. Water on the cooker is probably not the best of ideas, seeing as it's electric. Before that goes anywhere else. So I'm going to start with this one. This is Tahoma Glacier. Now this one's a strange one, because if it ever blooms again, the flowers on it are enormous. But if any of you have ever done watercolour painting like what I have, and I'm planning to start that again soon as a additional hobby, I'm planning to actually paint orchids. That's my theory, if I ever get round to it. But anyway, it produces the most huge blooms, and some would say they're gorgeous. Yeah, they're a pale cream bordering on tinge with green, with washed out purpley patterns, and not huge amounts of them. And the whole bloom to me just looks that. It just looks washed out. So it's not my favourite thing. But this was one of those, I didn't want to lose it. That was a gritted teeth thing. I thought, I've been struggling with you for a long time, we'll give you a chance in the Seramis. So without further ado, let's get some jungle juice. That's not bad. I've had worse. And we'll just tip the flipping thing out and see what happens. Well, that shoots the massive roots theory straight in the foot. say that's not what I would call a good root system. Now, bearing in mind these were potted up 9 months ago, this has had 9 months to do its thing. Now these roots are going to be strange, as well as some of them being dead. Yeah, I can just pull some of them apart. But luckily I can see the difference between those that have gone and those that are okay. These whitey coloured ones are firm roots. They are viable roots. Now whether they're going to stay viable by changing the media or whether they'll keel over or not, I don't know. All I'm going to do at the moment is get them out of their pots and look at each one. That one I can pot. This back bulb here is coming off. That gives it 2 back bulbs linked together. This one's a bit wobbly, yeah, so he can come off. But that will give it 2 back bulbs, its new growth and some viable roots. So it's capable of pulling on. And it'll probably pull on enough to get that growth reasonable sized, and then the plant will move on to somebody else because I don't want it. Some might say, well, why don't you just throw it away now and save the bother? Do I need to put the tags with the plants? No, I'll remember. Now this one used to be Oncidium sweet sugar. It's now called something else. I've forgotten what it is, and at this point in time I'm quite honestly not fussed. Well, let's get this one out and see what we've got. This one decided to climb a bit with its latest growth. Was that the growth that bloomed? Yeah, so that latest growth has bloomed. So unless it pushes up a new growth, it's not going to bloom, you know, so we shall see. But I don't want to lose this one. I do like the blooms. I want to keep it. That's not brilliant, is it? But again, we have some white roots and some brown roots. What we have is the pain of some Oncidiums. If you look at that bulb, the next bulb is nearly 1 inch higher. The latest growth is nearly 1 inch higher than that. So I've got a gap between the base of that bulb and the base of that bulb of that much. Well, how on earth am I going to pot that? I've either got to sink that into the media, in which case it will probably rot, because it hasn't got any good roots on that oldest bulb. Or I take the bull by the horns, given that this is a mature flowering sized bulb, not quite as big as the previous ones, but it did suffer a bit in its day. Get rid of that bulb, that will allow me to pot it higher, and by tipping it over at a slight angle, I mean, I've still got some signs of potentially more new root growth coming under this bulb. But if I don't get this bulb base into the media, the next one is liable to climb up again and it'll be even farther away from the media. So this one has got mostly dead roots and some that are okay. Not many, but enough to support that growth and get a new growth going, at which point it will produce new new roots. Ugh, horrible stuff. So that's that one. What else we got then? This I'm dreading. This is one of my twinkles. Now this pushed on some nice new growths, they matured and they bloomed. That's been on video a few times. That's the cinnamon one. So it's the browny orangey coloured ones. Very fragrant and a lovely bloom. But that plant is not a happy plant. That is not a good plant. It was once and now it isn't. Let's see how bad it actually is. Yeah, most of these roots have gone. They just pull apart. Around this end there's some white ones. These are okay. In fact, these are okay. It's got a root system that I can yeah. A couple of the things like that pseudo bulb, I don't really need to cut that off, do I? It's just rotted. As is that one. Yeah, they're serving no purpose. But what I want to do is clean the plant, get rid of all these dead sheaths. And let's see, have we got, yeah, see underneath those horrible black sheaths are green pseudobulbs. So the plant base isn't rotten, just the manky old sheaths. And, nice new growth there. That was lucky. That could have easily got damaged because I didn't know it was there. Okay, so I can clean up the base of that plant, get rid of all this rotten sheath material, and hopefully she'll push out some new growth. So I've spotted one. Well, one's good enough. I don't want to lose. See, look, even the flower spikes just fall off at the base where they've rotted. Too wet. Too wet for too long. Need to dry out a bit in between. So this obviously didn't work for me in my very moist environment. That's a very savable plant. Thank goodness for that. I was dreading that one. So that's a twinkle. Making a mess in the sink here. What else we got? Here's a beastie. Here's a biggie. Now again, this has got the black sheaths. And this is actually a Shari baby. Now, up until recently, I don't do well with Shari babies. They don't like me for some reason. But the one I've already got in a normal pot in the grow room is pushing on in leaps and bounds. And quite honestly, so is this one. The only thing they're not doing is producing flower spikes. I'll have to have a word. You see out there? That's called the hedge. Please have some good. Oh, that's not brilliant, but that's a lot better than I was expecting, because I really don't do well with these things. They just lose their roots and die on me. Well, they have done. But yeah, we have got viable roots. Yes, we've got some manky ones, but they are on the old pseudobulbs. See, there's one good thing about this inorganic media. If I don't get it all off, it doesn't matter, because it can't rot. But what it can do is keep the base of the plant too wet, which is what it has been doing. So, got that. Lovely new growth there, just spotted. You can probably just see that on the end of my finger, perhaps. So we do have a new growth. And this is the sort of thing you've got to watch for. That bulb there, which is hiding that new growth, if I pop the base of the plant, which I'm going to call this bit here, that's going to be up to there in media and will rot. So there's no point in it staying on the plant. It needs to come off. And quite honestly, that's two plants. I've only got to give that a gentle tug and that's going to come apart. I don't believe there's a rhizome joining it. I think it's joined by tangled roots. In some ways that's good, because it means I can raise the level of this side of the plant to the same level of this side, get rid of that manky pseudobulb, get all these horrible, look, these are supposed to be dry, they're soggy, they're horrible. But if I get rid of those, clean that up a bit, it's got reasonable roots, providing it doesn't mind the repot, it should do okay. So very savable, that one. It'll be two plants. Now, do I plant that up as two plants, wait for new growth to push out on both of them and sell them both on, keep one, get rid of one, put them both in the same pot and keep the lot? You can't have enough Shari babies, can you? They're going in one pot. Yep, you get to stay. Now, what about this sad looking object? This is one of my odontodias. These are part old-fashioned odontoglossum. This is a sturbic and it's the red one. I think it's exactly the same thing as Rachel had on a recent video. And when you watch that video, as you got to that plant, your mouth would have just dropped open. It's stunning. And I do not want to lose that. We have a nice new growth coming. The previous growth didn't really mature as well as it should have. Did it bloom? No, it didn't. Well, it was in bloom when I got it. There were this stuff's piling up here, isn't it? You notice I did put some lacquer in with this, and I can't for the life of me think why I did that. I'm sure I thought it was a good idea at the time, but what have we got here then? Mostly bad roots. See, they just fall apart. But round this side we have the white ones, and we have a new growth, which is where, yeah, we've got new roots coming out on this side of the plant. On this side of the plant they've gone. Number of new roots compared with manky roots, few, but enough. The new growth will push on, and it will provide more new roots. See, there's a couple of really good ones there, and they're the recent ones. They're the ones out of this side, what I would call the front of the plant. So again, clean the sheaths off, clean up the base of the plant, because these sheaths, when they get like this, they wick up moisture and keep the base of the pseudobulb wet. And this are not a good idea. Yep, that's going to clean up okay. Salvageable, thank goodness. It's a beautiful bloom. I'm not sure I've got a pop-up, but if I have, I'll do it. I've got a sink full of green here. Now this sorry looking object, I do not want to lose. This is very special. This has one of my favourite blooms, if I ever see them again on this plant. This is one I must have. If I see a good version of this, I will just get it as a replacement for this one, which has struggled for some time. Now it's another one of these, it's got new growths coming out all over the place, but the last lot of new growths, no, it's fallen in two already. Now it might have gone in there as two plants, my memory's not that good. Right, so this little plant here has got all old pseudobulbs and one new growth. That new growth has no new roots on it yet. And it's hardly worth even thinking about keeping. You can see it's climbing nature. Oldest pseudobulb, starting to rot at the bottom. Next one, next one, next one. Slightly higher again, and then pushed out a new growth. And that new growth is not doing well. It just isn't. So that part of the plant is probably not worth the trouble. If I put it in the pot with the rest of the plant, it's just going to be a nuisance, I suspect. Oh, it's three plants. It's fallen into three parts. Now this part has a new growth here. And some lovely wet sheaths. What else have we got? We've got another new growth down here. But basically we've got that was the last growth, previous growth, yeah? It's dropped all its leaves on those pseudobulbs, but one of them's pushing out a new growth, and they are all joined together. So in this case they need to stay joined together, and we'll see what else we can get this to do. But that was the last growth that I grew, and I thought, oh, it's perking up. That's not a bad pseudobulb, but it never quite got to the size of the previous one. But now it's got another new growth pushing on here. And again, if I can get these sheaths out of the way, it'll make way for those new roots to get straight into some media. And it'll have to go over at a slight angle, because I want to keep this bit as well, because that's got a new growth with a tiny, well, you can see that, tiny little new root. One, singular. But that's enough. And these roots are not good. Yeah, I don't know whether we're gonna. I've got to try and save it. It's one of my favourite blooms. See, that's nice to find, isn't it? Lovely new growth there. And what have we got here? Scale. So despite spraying, are they dead? Yeah, they are actually. When they come off that easy, they've had it. They've seen better days. I think that's a polite expression. But there are some on the leaf. So they're starting to get about again. And now this is going to get me about 10 dislikes, but that means they're going to have to be sprayed again. I can't let these get out of control. If you go on the American Orchid Society website where they've got their videos, I think it's actually a YouTube channel called Orchid TV or something like that. There's a very droll character that does the videos, but they're informative. They're a bit basic, but they're informative. And he's got one on trying to get rid of this type of scale. And you can tell by the tone in his voice that he's basically wishing you luck. Because when you've got these, they're almost impossible to eradicate. Okay, so that growth there has actually got 2 new growths coming if they don't rot off. So I can save that little piece. I can save that piece. But it's nearly all old bulbs. And whether it'll ever recover or not, I don't know. I really don't want to lose that one. Right, I've now got to do a clearing up session because I've made a mess, haven't I? And luckily I didn't get too much all over the place. And then I can just take that tray outside in the garden and forget it. And it can get rained on and wet. So, okay, that was a little investigation as to what was in the pots. Now I've got to decide what to do with the contents of those pots, obviously. Whether I'll video each one of those, I doubt it. I say sticking a plant in a pot is much of a muchness, and they're going to take a long time to clean up. They've got to be washed off. I've got to trim the dead roots off because there's more dead roots than live ones. I can't leave those on, they've got to come off. I've got to clean up the base of the plants, give it the best possible chance in some nice new media, yet to be decided. One of them or 2 of them may even get mounted, I don't know yet. I've got to clean them all off, get them all sprayed with hydrogen peroxide. I'm going to be busy for some time, and it's not something that's watchable, quite honestly. It's fiddly and it's close in work. I've got to be very careful not to damage new growths, not to knock off the good roots. So I need to concentrate. Okay, if there's anything else to film on the end of this one, I'll be back. If not, that's just an insight into 6 of the Seramis plants. That leaves 5. There's 5 to go. One of which is a Cattleya, yeah, and one of which is a Maxillaria tenuifolia, and that's actually growing very well. Cattleya, not so much. Okay, so thanks for watching this bit. If there's any more, I'll add it on. If not, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.